Good day and welcome to another edition of Sharing Trade Information on Global Trade Tutor. In this series of video, I'll be talking about China. Now, China is a very important country, a country that is the largest exporter in the world and second largest importer in the world. US is the largest importer in the world and second largest exporter in the world. China has become a major force in recent time, and any individual looking to do business in any country, you definitely want to do business with China, particularly sending raw materials and intermediate product to China. It's important to know that intermediate product is a big deal now in the world. Intermediate product basically means the product is not raw and the product is not finished. And China, being an industrial nation, highly industrialized nation, purchase a lot of these kind of products, particularly primary raw materials and intermediate product, because all these help them to be able to create jobs for their people. As a matter of fact, I'm aware there are some products you can't export finished to China. Why? Because it must be processed in China. Now, these are the kind of policy that China have in mind, or China have put in place to be able to ensure that its country is not a dumping ground, but rather its country, so is the import of China is deliberately targeted to be able to attract raw materials required for manufacturing and intermediate product required for production within the country. In fact, sometimes governments set up a trading company and government fund those trading companies, and those trading companies purchase these raw materials and stockpile them so that when organizations, manufacturing companies, factories need them and they don't have enough cash, they can buy from this trading company. This trading company can even help them issue a letter of credit while the good is on the way. Then they can pay this trading company later. These are the kind of policy and initiative that China has put in place, beyond also the incentive that China gives to its businesses. Now, in this series, I'll be looking at, it's going to be about 20 videos, and I'll be looking at different products, from raw materials to machine and equipment, to precious metals, to transportation, to metal product, to oil product, to foodstuff, to clothing, to different products, animal product, packaged medicament, chemical product that China is importing into its country. By the way, the import volume of China is over $2 trillion. Global trade is just about 24, $25 trillion. And China alone is taking up over $2 trillion. That tells you the level of dependence of the global economy on China. So let's go. I move on to another product now. These are minerals in their raw state. 623 billion is being spent by China to import raw metals. Now, you know, I used to have a colleague, a friend in China, who told me that one of the things China or the Chinese government was doing at the time is they do not want, they put more tax on metal. If you are following this channel, we've discussed metal products, and they put embargo pretty much on metals, in the sense that they increase the duty on metals. Why? They want the raw to come into China. Why? Because it creates more jobs. Because when you are processing into intermediate product, of course, it makes the factory that needed to begin to use it immediately, but it also reduces the raw material coming in for factory that process this ore into intermediate product. So what you will also notice in this conversation, you will see like the metal product is an intermediate product. That's not the primary state. This is the primary state. We've talked, if you also know, we'll talk about petroleum, refined petroleum product. It's not the primary state. The primary state of the product is crude oil. Copper ore, you see copper metal that we talked about before. Copper ore is the primary state. The idea is this. They want, although some countries do not want primary products in their country again because of the impact on the environment, but a country like China wants this primary product. Why? They want the primary product because it helps them to create jobs. $623 billion. That means metal products plus minerals is more about half of what China imports. This speaks a lot about China. China spends a lot of its money importing raw materials. The primary product and the intermediate product combined import in China is over $1 trillion. As a matter of fact, it's about $1.1 trillion. Look at metal, it's about not $1 trillion. It's about $750 billion. Sorry, 750 billion. Because if you look at this is metal product, and this is raw materials, other raw material in the primary state. But you notice something. What do you notice here? Look at the metal product, the intermediate, 144 billion. But you know what? China wants more raw, 623 billion. 623 billion is what China is using to import the raw. Can you see the difference? So about let me say approximately 800 billion or almost $800 billion of import of China is raw materials. Raw materials, both in the primary state and secondary state. So let's look at this. Crude petroleum, 46%. I'm not surprised at all. Why? China have a huge population with millions of cars that need petroleum. They need to be able to process it themselves. So they process petroleum themselves, and they are spending almost 50% of the 623 billion is for crude oil import because they need it to produce so many things, all the petrochemicals and the like. Iron ore, 16.6%. Petrol gas, 11.7%. Copper ore, 8.11%. Coal briquette, 4.51%. Refined petroleum, 3.25%. Other minerals, 1.41%. Lignite, 1.41%. Aluminium ore, 0.87%. Petroleum coke, 0.86%. Precious metal, 0.83%. Manganese ore, 0.71%. Lignite, 1.41%. I used to export lead ore. Lead ore, 0.47%. I also used to export zinc ore. Zinc ore, 0.65%. Nickel ore, 0.48%. And precious metal, 0.83%.